of thoughts, we can't do it by just simply thinking, I want to let those thoughts go. We have to use some technique. And the technique we're going to use today is seeing the thoughts like a river, just flowing and allowing them to flow. So we put an introductory question for you, and it was, what helps you clear your mind? So please put that in the chat, and I'd be interested to see what helps to clear your mind. So this meditation practice is about letting the thoughts go. Now, if you look at one way, then we do let our thoughts go, but unfortunately we let them go out of our mouth, and that gets us into all sorts of trouble. So what we need to be doing is just allowing those thoughts to come and go. So a thought is just a process. It's a process of your brain. So some part of your brain is activated by some stimulus outside or some memory inside, and a thought appears. If we just allow that thought to go, it will just float off and another thought will come along. So thoughts have no power. They only have power when we engage with them, when we hold on to them, when we start to tell stories and build those stories around that one thought. That's where the power comes from. So because it's a process, there is no power. We make them powerful by holding on to them and allowing them to become stories and become bigger and bigger. So we need to understand that a thought is just a thought, and let that thought go. Another thought will come along. If we're being mindful, we can see that these thoughts are not helpful, they're not skillful, let them go. This thought here is helpful, it's skillful, it's kind, it's caring, compassionate, then we should follow those types of thoughts. So thank you so much for sharing what helps to clear your mind. So some people said a strong yoga practice, swimming laps, staring at the ocean, walking through a deep forest. Yeah, I like that one. Or a nice nap or a bath. I like that one as well, actually. So what I want you to do really is just to calm yourself down a moment. Just get yourself into a nice, relaxing position. Put your back straight and drop your shoulders. Put your feet flat on the ground and a little bit apart. Rest your hands in your lap. So just get yourself nice and comfortable. And if any questions come up for you during this practice, please just put them in the chat, and at the end of the session, I'll get round to answering them for you. So this practice here is going to allow us to see what thoughts really are. So like I've said, they're a process, they come to go. A problem we have is that we hold on to those thoughts. We identify with those thoughts. So something else we need to really be thinking about is that you may be thinking that, but it doesn't mean that's who you are. You can have negative thoughts, but it doesn't make you a negative person. You can have an unhelpful thought. We all have them. They just pop into our mind, but it doesn't mean that we're an unkind or unhelpful person. It is a thought. So don't identify with those thoughts. Don't build a big story around every thought. Understand the thought is like a river, and it will float off nicely. So I'll guide you through this meditation where we're going to look at the thoughts and try just to let them go. It takes practice, of course it does. We've spent the whole of our lives following every thought, and we get around 60,000 thoughts a day. So imagine 60,000 thoughts, and we're chasing after each and every thought, whether they're helpful or not. So no wonder at the end of the day, we're exhausted. we feel that we're getting burnt out or we're becoming stressed or anxious, it's because we're chasing each and every thought. So this practice is going to allow you just to let those thoughts go. So now you're sitting nice and comfortable. I want you to just lightly close your eyes, and to bring you into the present moment, I want you to think of one thing that you're grateful for right now, right at this moment. What one thing are you grateful for? And that just brings you nicely into the present moment. And now you're in the present moment, I want you to check in with your thought process. So don't try to change it or criticize or judge it. Just become aware. What is your thought process at the moment? Is it a little negative or a little optimistic or pessimistic? What is your thought process? And now I want you to check in with your emotion. What emotion are you feeling right now? And again, don't judge or try to change it. Just become aware of it and accept it. So, what emotion are you feeling? So, now let's start the meditation. So, I want you to focus your awareness on your breath and just become aware that the breath is flowing in and is flowing out. So, don't change your breathing anyway here. Just allow it to find its own natural rhythm. And when your mind starts to wander off, and it will, it's natural, just gently bring it back and start focusing on the breath flowing in and out. So let's do that for 1 minute. So now, while you're just noticing your breath, I want you to become aware of your mind. Is your mind a little distracted? Is it focused? Is it calm and quiet? Just observe it. Just become aware of what your mind is like at the moment. And whatever it's doing just now, that's okay. There's no need to try to stop it because actually that's impossible to do. So just become aware of the mind. So now I want you to imagine that you're standing on the banks of a fast flowing river. So just picture that fast flowing river in your mind and imagine yourself standing there. And as you're standing there, I want you to have a look around you. Look at the water flowing down the river. Look at the wild flowers on the banks of the river. Look at the trees and the grass. Just have a good look around. And now I want you to listen for any sounds that you can hear. So you'll hear the running water. What else can you hear? Can you hear wind blowing through the trees? Maybe birds singing? What can you hear? And as you're breathing in, just notice any smells there are. Maybe you can smell those wild flowers or the trees. What else can you smell? And now I want you to bend down and touch the ground with one of your hands. What can you feel? So now I want you to look at the river and try to imagine that your thoughts are just like the flowing water. They come and go, just drifting along, forever flowing, forever moving, appearing from nowhere and disappearing into nothing. So just imagine for a moment that your thoughts are just like that water flowing down the river. So now imagine yourself standing in the river, the water pulling you this way and that. It feels like we have no control. When we get all tangled up with our thoughts, it's exactly the same. We're being pulled in all directions. So as you're standing in the river and being pulled about, just think about how your thoughts pull you around on a daily basis. So now, rather than standing in the river, try to imagine yourself sitting on the river bank and watching your thoughts slowly drift by. So imagine the water, they're your thoughts, and just sit there a moment and just watch your thoughts go floating by. So stay here for a while and notice how your mind becomes calm and relaxed when you simply watch those thoughts coming and going without getting all caught up and tangled up in them. So as you're watching your thoughts just drift away, just notice how your body relaxes and how your mind becomes calm and peaceful. So can you see your unsolicited thoughts coming and going? Just tell yourself there's no need to engage them, believe them, or get all knotted up and tangled up with them. Just simply watch them appear and then disappear. Whatever thought floats into your mind, just let it float away again. Don't engage it. Do this with all of your thoughts. It doesn't matter if they're happy thoughts or sad thoughts. Just sit there and allow every thought to just float through your mind and disappear, come and go. Remember, thoughts are just thoughts. They're not necessarily true or real. They're just thoughts. You can't touch them or see them. They're simply a process of the brain. A brain is just a thought generating device. So there's no need to engage every thought. Just watch them now arise and fall away. You are not your thoughts, and they don't define you. We all have unhelpful thoughts, but does that make us a bad person? No, it's simply a thought, and it's not who we are. So just think about that for a moment. Whatever thought is coming into your head, negative or positive, they're not you. They don't define you. So don't identify with each and every thought. So for the next minute, I want you to just acknowledge and accept that thought is there and just let it go. Simply watch the thought flow down the river. So whenever you find yourself overthinking or becoming obsessed by some thoughts, just imagine that your thoughts are like the water in the river and allow them to float off uninterrupted and unimpeded. So before we finish this meditation, I want you to reflect back over the meditation. Did you find it easy to let thoughts go? Were there some thoughts that were harder to let go than others? Did you feel some resistance when you managed to let the thought go? How did it make you feel? Just reflect on these points for a moment. So now I want you to just very slowly start to open your eyes and spend a moment just to gently bring yourself back into your room. So I hope you managed to feel that you could let thoughts go, at least try to let thoughts go. It gives you an idea of how you can start to let those thoughts go. So remember, if you have any questions, then please put them in the chat and I'll try my best to answer them. So somebody wrote, some thoughts come in strongly and won't go away. It's hard not to engage with them, such as pressing deadlines, children that are unwell, remunerating thoughts. So yeah, it's true that that happens, but that happens because we have got ourselves into the habit of just following and getting engaged with each and every thought. So this is a new skill. So we can't expect to spend the whole of our life chasing thoughts and then do a 20-minute meditation and everything is now okay. Unfortunately, it doesn't work that way. But the more that you do this practice, the more that you try to allow those thoughts to go. So if you're finding some thoughts are difficult, then put them to one side and start with the thoughts that are easier. Because if you can let those easier thoughts go, it gives you the motivation to then a bit later on try those more difficult thoughts. So somebody else said, when I put myself on the river bank, the quote, and this too shall pass, came to mind. I feel like I could take this visualization off the cushion when anxiety strikes to relax me. Is that okay? Yeah, of course that's okay. So it's true. Things come to go. Thoughts come to go. Emotions come to go. Everything in our life comes to go. There is nothing that is permanent. There is nothing that is going to stay here for a long, long time. So, yeah, it's perfectly fine. This too shall pass. Wonderful. Somebody else put, how can I tell the difference between thoughts and my inner voice? Well, that inner voice is a thought. Your inner voice, if it's, the inner voice is chitty chattering away and it's usually telling us bad things that, we're no good and we'll never be any good. So they're just thoughts. So, and they're actually, that chatter in your head is very, very negative, and it really does no good for us. It really puts us down. So be careful. Let them go. And when you've let them go, these inner voice, when you've let it go, replace it with a more positive one. Replace it with a voice that is supportive, that's self-compassionate, that is kind, that is really going to help yourself. So let them flow. Another question was, I would love to replace my negative thoughts with positive ones. Yeah, we all would. But I would have to say here that don't just jump on that bandwagon that we're going through now, is that all negative thoughts are bad and we should only think positive. Because remember, those negative thoughts, sometimes they're telling us something. Sometimes they're a little warning to us. So don't get too hung up on every negative thought and needing to change it into a positive thought. One, it's impossible to do, and two, we don't really need to be doing that. So, thank you so much for sharing this time with me, and please continue to explore meditation with us. Check out our daily live meditations at round.glass or on our app. So I'll be back next week for another live session. But until then, have a great week ahead. Thank you for joining me. Namaste.